We ought to be sitting around in a circle rather than in a lecture theatre, shouldn't we? Can everybody hear what I'm saying? Anyway?
Yes.
I'll give you a warning. I live in an old rectory, and I have a Queen Anne church in my garden, and I look after the grounds of the church. So it's the atheist who maintains the church in my village. The problem with that is I tend to sometimes rant, a bit like a 19th century parson. So I will do my very, very best to keep my voice level and controlled. But if it starts to rise and get quicker and quicker and more aggressive, then tough luck. You'll have to put up with it. Okay? We atheists sometimes preach in the same way that religious people preach. But the topic I'm going to cover is about criticism of religion. And just to make sure that we're all singing from that same hymn sheet, one of the most common things that happens in any meeting is that people fail to agree on the basic terms, which is why religious people often point to atheists and say, well, that's your religion, which is nonsense. So the first thing is a clear definition of what a religion actually is. And it's the key things are a creator God and a soul. You cannot have a religion without those two. You can have beliefs without those two, but you cannot have a religion without those two. Optionally, you can have a heaven, a hell, and a devil, and angels, and lots of other things. But the key things are a creator God and a soul. What is a non-believer then? Someone who doesn't have a religion? Well, a non-believer is someone who has no intellectual, emotional, psychological, or social need for a religion or a God. Gods and religions meet needs. They definitely do. But people like us don't have those needs. What then is an atheist? Well, an atheist says that there is no need to propose a God, so I don't believe in one. Or as I put on my t-shirt, God is an unnecessary postulate. That goes over the top of some people, so you say there's no need to propose one, so I don't believe in one. What's an agnostic then? Well, an agnostic would say it is not possible to prove either the existence of a God or the non-existence of a God, but I personally don't need one. So they leave the door open a little bit. In fact, they cheat. They don't leave the door open at all. But they're bright enough to realise that when it comes to issues of proof and non-proof, then we could be arguing all day. So an agnostic tends to take that line. This one may surprise you. There is actually no such thing as atheism. Do not allow anyone to talk about atheism, because an ism implies an ideology. And an ideology might be a religion, it might be communism, it might be totalitarianism, it might be fascism, it might be a number of isms, ideologies. There is no atheist ideology. You can have fascist atheists. You can have revolutionary socialist atheists, as I was in the 1970s. You can have more liberal democratic atheists, as I tend to be in 2007. So you can have a wide variety of different atheists, good ones, bad ones, and some in between. They do not share a common ideology, so there is no such thing as atheism. Another word that gets bandied about is the word secular. It's a very simple word, it just means of this world. Touch it, feel it, kick it. See it, perceive it, understand it. Feel it. Emotions are secular. And secularism is not an ideology. It's one of those rare isms that isn't an ideology. It's actually a set of political aims. To remove bishops from the House of Lords, to close all faith schools, etc., etc. A set of political aims. That's secularism. Humanism is quite simply a belief that you can have a happy, rewarding, useful and good life without a religion or superstitious beliefs. And in fact, if we were to go outside there and do a survey in the streets of Leeds, we would find that most people are indifferent to religion. They are neither for it nor particularly against it. They're not atheists, they're not rampantly religious, they're indifferent. But if you ask them if they feel that there needs to be a set of values and responsibilities in society that allow us to get on with one another, then the ones they'll come up with will be very humanist values and responsibilities. So humanists believe that you can do without the mumbo-jumbo, the superstition, the God, and the organised religion. Now then, this particular talk is supposed to be about criticising, ridiculing, defaming or insulting religion. So, criticise. If you write an essay, you will get it criticised. Someone will judge it, pick it apart, find fault with it and assess it. And we are entitled and morally bound to do that to every idea in life. Challenge everything. Criticise everything. To ridicule is to take the piss out of, to laugh at it, to make a fool of it, to make fun of it. The sort of thing you get on at 6:25 on a Friday evening on Radio 4, or when Jeremy Hardy speaks to the nation, or whatever it is. They ridicules the sacred cows of all sorts of people, not just religious people or non-religious people, but to make fun of it. Life is fun, so take the piss out of it every now and again. Defame. This is a very important word. I'm going to come back to this later on, but it is a very, very important and dangerous word, and you will see why later on. It simply means to attack the fame of, that's very obvious, or to speak ill of, to say nasty things about something. To insult is to treat with scornful abuse. Now, you can insult a person, and that is not a good idea. You can expect to get thumped in the face if you insult a person. I cannot understand anyone who could argue that you could insult an idea. It's like insulting that table. I mean, what am I going to you? Table. It makes no sense at all. So insult really I'm not really dealing with, because that's a personal thing. It's one person to another. Some key things. Everybody's actually born an atheist, because no one is born religious. There are no Muslim, Christian, Judaist, Hindu, Zoroastrian babies. It's bloody obvious, isn't it? They're all atheists to start off with, because they haven't got any beliefs. So somebody dumps their beliefs onto them and makes them what they are. Individuals make an intellectual decision, an informed choice about religion. Bollocks. Religious people have prejudices. They do not make an informed choice. They do not study alternative belief systems. They do not study other religions. Some do, and all power to their elbow. I have done, so I don't see why they shouldn't. But non-informed choice. I'm a Muslim because my mum was a Muslim. I'm a Judaist because my mum was a Judaist. That is an uninformed decision, and that is bigotry. That is the definition of bigotry, when you've not bothered to find out what the alternatives are. So, we now know that all religions are ideologies. They're sets of ideas. And from that it follows that living people are sometimes protected against discrimination based on innate characteristics, for example. What I want to look at, first of all, are some of the examples where religious people have protested because they feel that their heartfelt beliefs are under attack. When you listen to a religious person, they say, criticising my ideas is the same as criticising me. Unfortunately, that is not acceptable. Criticising your ideas is criticising your ideas. You must be able to defend your ideas. I must be able to defend my ideas. I'm not criticising you as a person. However, religious people insist that their ideas are part of them personally. Let's take an example. In the theatre in Birmingham Rep, where the play Vesty, which meant dishonour, the theatre was physically attacked. 3 police officers were injured. And this was a quotation from a leader of Guru Nanak Gurdwara in Birmingham, that in fact the closing of the play came too late, because it had already been seen by people and was deeply insulting to the worldwide network of Sikhs. It happened to concern sexual abuse in a Sikh temple, which of course never happens, just as it never happens in a Catholic church. So obviously people would be upset by it. Jerry Springer the Opera, which I have never seen. As I say, I don't have to go and see every play. Corpus Christi, many other plays and many other films insult Christians. And the most rampant Christian in defending Christians is a chap called Stephen Green of Christian Voice, who organises protests all over the country. He's never seen any of the things he protests against. However, this amazing quotation came out when he had a real go at the Catholic Church by saying that Catholicism supported the Sikh protest in Birmingham, but it didn't support Christian Voice, and given that Roman Catholicism is riddled with sodomy, such a stance is no surprise. What I like is unity amongst religious people. This is disgraceful. Hindus in India are protesting and killing people about works of art. Now, it doesn't matter whether that work of art is a film, it's a play, it's a painting, it's anything, any work of art that they consider to be against the views of Hinduism or against the God of Hinduism. They threaten lives and they kill people. This particular film was not allowed to be produced in India because these three organisations, the leading Hindu organisations in India, threatened that there would be bloody murder if it was. Literally threatened that there would be bloody murder if it was. There's this chap called M.F. Hussain in India who does paintings of Hindu gods. Death threats, attacked on the streets, beaten up, afraid to come out of his house, family threatened, children threatened. The man is leading a life like Salman Rushdie did. Have a look at his paintings. These are his paintings. So they depict various Hindu gods in situations where Hindus prefer that Hindu gods were not depicted. I have to change my glasses to see this. What it says. The one on the left is portrayed naked with his genitals pointing towards a woman. My wife got very confused by that because she couldn't figure out which were his genitals, but I suppose that's what abstract art is all about. The middle one, the use of the tail of the Hindu god for such an act has crossed all the limitations of indecency, i.e. there is a female god sitting on it. The one at the bottom, a female god, is sitting on the thigh of a male god. These are obviously unacceptable and people should be killed, not only for doing it, but for looking at them. So be careful when you go outside. You all know this one. That fatwa still exists against Salman Rushdie. Now, his particular case, he's a highly articulate, intelligent person. You may like him, you may not like him, but nonetheless he's highly articulate and intelligent. This has been going on since 1989. It is just one example of the many fatwa against artists of one form or another throughout the world. I was speaking to some people who draw cartoons a couple of weeks ago. Would you draw cartoons on a religious topic? No way. Did you draw cartoons on religious topics? Yes. Why have you changed your mind? Don't be stupid, they say. They're scared. So this is nonsense. These are some of the religious protests that took place about the Danish cartoons. So on the left we have a highly articulate, well-informed young person who has analysed different religions and has decided that whoever insults the prophet, kill him. The lady who is well disguised, or the gentleman who is well disguised in the second picture, says be prepared for the real Holocaust. As we know from the bombers of 7/11, or was it 21/7 or whatever it was, some of the bombers from London escaped by wearing this sort of outfit. So we have no idea what's behind that outfit. If you look at the others, we have massacre those who insult Islam, exterminate those who slander Islam. Europe will pay, extermination is on the way. Slay those who insult Islam. Europe will be demolished. Butcher those who mock Islam. Burn effigies. Burn down embassies. Have violent protests on streets such that the army has to be turned out to control you. What was that all about? That's what that was all about. That's the complete set. There are some more, the journalists taking the piss out of themselves actually, but these are the ones that were offensive, particularly the bottom right hand one was found to be deeply offensive. I had this discussion with some Muslims a couple of weeks ago, and I said that the whole issue is about not being allowed to represent the Prophet Muhammad. Yes. Well, I've been to the Middle East. I've been to every single country around the Mediterranean. And I've been to Syria, I've been to Jordan, I've been to Iran. I've been to these countries. I have seen Islamic works of art that depict Muhammad. No, you haven't. Yes, I have. No, you haven't. The definition is incredibly simple. If a piece of work represents the Prophet Muhammad, it is by definition not Islamic. The person who created it may have been Islamic before he painted it. He ceased to be Islamic the moment he painted it. It's, get out of that one. So by definition there are no portraits of Muhammad in Islam. But this is what people felt it worth killing other people for, and many of them are now in prison for threatening to kill other people for. Burning down places, burning flags, all sorts of things. This is madness. So, oh God, I'm depressed. At this point, I thought I'd chuck in a cheerful cartoon of Eeyore to cheer us all up, right? And I thought we would get back to the atheist message just for a second. And the atheist message there: earthquakes, floods, famines, terrorism, war, diseases, the Taliban, mudslides, George Bush, oppression of women, genocide, ethnic cleansing, forced genital mutilation, HIV, AIDS, evangelical homophobes, global warming, and that's a benevolent God. I'd hate to meet a malevolent one. The note at the top there is actually what Catholic schools have been told. They can collect for Red Nose Day, but they must make sure that none of that money in any way goes to help prevent HIV/AIDS by the use of condoms. That is disgusting. Right, we come under attack as well, and we get very upset about it. Some people have got this kick that atheism depends upon Darwin for some reason. Atheists have been going around a long time before Darwin. Atheists adopt a philosophical approach to life and to religion, and Darwin has got nothing to do with being an atheist or not being an atheist. However, many religious people, and Richard Dawkins, seem to think that atheism hangs or falls by Darwinism. Of course it doesn't. It's very handy to have Darwin to explain how the world evolved and so on, but you can see that poor old Charles gets depicted as an ape in 19th century cartoons. On the right hand side we have the devil turning up the temperature for humanists, agnostics, evolutionists, rationalists and atheists, because we're all going to burn in hell. This is quite good actually. 72 virgins shall wait upon he who sacrifices life in the name of his God. So on the left hand side we've got the faithful going to heaven, and on the right hand side we've got us, because if there is a heaven or a hell, we're going to go to it whether we like it or not. But unfortunately the rewards don't seem quite as good as for others, unfortunately. Matthew 12:32, whosoever speaks against the Holy Ghost, it shall not be forgiven him, neither in this world, neither in the world to come. So there's us poor atheists knocking on the pearly gates. We're not stupid. If we get there and we recognise there's somebody at the gates, we're going to cringe, aren't we? Forgive us. No, clear off and visit. Right, so we sometimes get attacked. However, on a very, very serious note, this has cropped up. There's a lot of words on the screen. The United Nations has a human rights group, and there is a subgroup within that that deals with religion. And this is a motion passed by that subgroup within the last few weeks. The Council expresses deep concern at attempts to identify Islam with terrorism, violence and human rights violations. Notes with deep concern the intensification of the campaigns of defamation of religions and the ethnic and religious profiling of Muslim minorities in the aftermath of the tragic events of the 11th of September, and urges states to take resolute action to prohibit the dissemination, including through political institutions and organisations, of racist and xenophobic ideas and material aimed at any religion or its followers that constitute incitement to racial or religious hatred, hostility or violence.